Hey everyone, welcome to Cooking with Quizzie. I'm Quizzie, the Quiz Master. So, what are we going to be cooking today? Well, today we're going to be cooking garlic and herb stuffed chicken with rice. Now I know what you're thinking. He's going to teach us how to cook rice? Don't you just put it in a pan and boil it? Well, yeah, you do. But how often have you had rice that's undercooked and hard? Or overcooked and stodgy and starchy and sticky? Well, I'm going to teach you how to make the perfect rice dish every time. Fluffy, beautifully cooked. So, let's get started and see what ingredients we need to make this dish. Okay, so we're going to need some chicken breasts, some garlic and herb cheese, some spring onions, some Serrano ham, or Parma ham, or pancetta, or even bacon. We're also going to need some rice. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so for the chicken, what we're going to do is take our chicken out onto our board. And then if we turn the chicken over, underneath, you can see that there's a natural sort of join in the chicken. That's what we're looking for to start with. So what we're going to do is just take a knife, be extra careful with your knife skills, get someone to help if you need it. And what we're going to do is along this piece here that's already got this natural sort of fold, we're just going to gently slice into it, not all the way through, just enough that we can widen the chicken just that little bit more, so when we're stuffing it, we've got a bigger surface area here to stuff. So that's the first one. Do the same with this one. Any of these hard little white bits here, they're usually quite good to cut off. We don't want to be eating those if we can help it. So again, we're going to slice down the natural centre and open that chicken breast up. Another white bit there that we're just going to cut off. Then we're going to take our next one. This one's got a lovely hole down the middle already. We can just slice it slightly to widen it, and again we can cut off any of those hard white bits in the chicken that we don't really want to be eating. And we've got one more. So you can obviously cook as many chicken breasts as you want. One per person works beautifully. It's a fairly filling dish by the time you put it all together. Slicing down the middle of that natural fold and just pulling it apart. There we go. Fantastic. So that's the chicken all prepped and ready to go. Next thing we need is our garlic and herb cheese. Lots of different types out there, lots of different flavours. So I'm using garlic and herb, but you could choose to use something different. As long as it's a soft cheese, then it will spread inside the chicken nicely. So here is our lovely soft cheese. Now if you're going to try and use the cheese for multiple things, you're going to use a bit in the chicken and then maybe you're using a bit later on with something else, then make sure you're really cautious and careful with which knives you're using to put the cheese into the chicken. You don't want to touch the chicken, which is raw chicken, and then go back to the cheese and then put that cheese back in the fridge. I'm going to use all the cheese today, so it doesn't matter which knife or spoon I use and what it touches, because we're not going to use the cheese for anything else. So we're going to slice some of our cheese off, and we're going to put it inside the chicken breasts. Okay. spread it out evenly between all 4 of the chicken breasts. Okay, lovely. Nearly there. Bit of a sticky, messy job, this one. Okay, there we go. Okay, so next we're going to transfer the chicken onto a baking tray with some foil on. Now the first job is to put the foil on the tray. But what you don't want to do is make the foil the same length as the tray. You want to make it twice as long. And that's because once the chicken's on it, we're going to fold the other half over, make it into a little blanket, and wrap all the chicken inside. Now, when we transfer the chicken, the first thing we need to do is make a bed for the chicken to lie on the foil, but the bed is made from the pancetta, or the bacon, or the Serrano ham, whatever you've chosen to use. So we take our Serrano ham, which is what I'm using today. What we're going to do is take a couple of pieces. And we're going to lay the Serrano ham. 2 pieces for each piece of chicken is usually okay. Depends on how big your chicken breasts are. So we'll do 2 to start with, and then we'll bunch it all up. So we're going to take our chicken breast, and you're going to lay it across the Serrano ham. So not lengthways, you're going to lay it across in the opposite direction. We're going to take our second piece, and we're going to lay that across Serrano ham. Fantastic. Now, I'll show you with these 2. Let's move our other ingredients out of the way. I'm going to add some black pepper on top. And then we're going to add our spring onions. So with your spring onions, take away some of the green down at the bottom, and I cut the little head off the spring onion, and then I like to peel away just the outer edge in case there's any dirt and soil around that top piece. There we go. So we'll leave one for the other piece of the chicken in a minute. So let's start with this one. We're just going to carefully slice the spring onion up. Remember with your knife skills to make sure the knife is against the finger vertically down when you're holding it. We don't want our fingers sticking out, so we cut the end of our finger off. So grip the spring onion, slide the knife up and down nicely. You can use a smaller knife if that's easier for you, or you can get somebody else to do this bit for you if you're worried about having to use a knife. So we're going to cut the spring onion right up into small pieces. Some of these bigger white bits we're going to slice up as well. They're all fairly equal in size. There we go. Lovely. Now, chop those last little bits up. What we do now is we sprinkle the spring onion on top of the cheese. Doesn't matter where it falls, we'll try and keep it nice and equal across the chicken. Brilliant. There we go. Then all we're going to do for the last bit is we're just going to roll the Serrano ham up. And wrap all the mixture together. There we go. Now do this one. And earlier on we said 2 slices of the ham is usually enough, but because my chicken breasts are quite big, you can see it's not quite covered. So we take our 3rd piece, we can lay that across the top, tuck it all in. Another piece for this side. And there we go. And all we do is we then turn it back round this way so it fits on the tray. And there are our first 2 stuffed chicken with garlic and herb cheese, sprinkled with some black pepper and some spring onions, wrapped in Serrano ham. Now we'll do the other 2. Okay, so that is all 4 bits of chicken now put together, ready to go in the oven. Now, just before we put it into the oven, what we do is we put some butter just on the top. And as it cooks, that butter helps sort of melt down through the ham, down through the chicken, keeps it nice and moist, and adds a bit of nice butter flavour to the dish. So just get some butter. Doesn't really matter how much you're putting on, but just spread some onto the top of each of the little ham parcels. Fantastic. And then it will just melt as it cooks. You don't need to worry too much about where it goes, because it will all melt and soak in through the top and then underneath as it melts at the bottom of the tray. And then all we're going to do is make our foil basket we talked about. Fold this over, and then you want to crimp just around the edges of the tin foil just to try and seal it in. That just keeps all the heat in, makes it almost steam inside there, and keeps all the flavours and the moisture in there so the chicken doesn't dry out too much. Okay, so that is now the chicken completely finished and ready to go into the oven. Okay, now I would put it in for probably 25 to 30 minutes. It just depends how big chicken breasts you started off with. Alright, so either way, just make sure when you bring the chicken out, have a slice through and just make sure that chicken is cooked all the way through. No pink bits in there, but anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes at around 200 is about right. So let's pop that in the oven and then we can get started on our rice. Okay, so we're going to take my cup. We're going to fill the cup to the top. There we go, so we've got a nice level cup full of rice. What we're going to do now, we're going to fill this pan with water. We're going to give it a good old wash, leave it for 20 minutes, drain the water off using our sieve, and then we'll start the cooking process. Okay, so I've washed my rice. Just take a look at that. Look at that thick white water. It's full of all that starch that has now come off our rice. So you can see how it's already worked. A few minutes sat in the cold water, a bit of a stir, a bit of a wash. You can see all that thick white water coming out, and that's all that starch we want to get rid of before we start cooking. So let's go and drain this off, and then we can begin the cooking. Okay, so that's the rice all drained. And now if you remember we said we did a cup of rice. So we do 2.5 cups of water. I've already boiled the kettle. Another good tip. Rather than adding cold water and having to use your hob to heat all that water up, boil it in your kettle first, gives you a good head start. There's our second cup. And then we do the half cup. So 1 cup of rice, 2.5 cups of water. Now that might look like a lot of water, but you'll see as we cook, It is going to be the perfect amount to give us lovely, fluffy, well-cooked rice. So on to the hob it goes. I tend to set it off on a high heat, but literally just for a minute or two, just to get that water moving, and then lower it right down to a very sort of mild heat. Otherwise the rice will start to stick to the bottom of the pan. So give it a good stir every now and again. Just keep your eye on it. As that water starts to dry up and soak into the rice, make sure you're just watching it towards the end, otherwise it can catch on the pan. Because obviously we're cooking this right to the end of the water. We're getting all the water gone, we're not leaving water in there and draining it. So towards the end, just make sure you keep an eye on it. Stir it a few times just to keep it moving. As soon as you feel it starting to stick, it means the water's gone and we're ready for the next stage. Okay, so the rice is just about done. So we'll take it off the heat. And then you can have a look at this. Look at this beautiful rice. Now you can see there's literally no water left. So, oh, that was the ping of the oven. Perfect timing for our chicken. So tiny, tiny amounts of water left. It's just about where you want to stop it. So almost all the water has gone, but the rice is still lovely and moist. It's not all dried up. It's not gone hard. But it's cooked enough. So you can just see it's just glistening with that tiny amount of water. Now, the last stage to make this rice perfect is to push it all down into the pan and then take a tea towel and pop the tea towel over the top. You can put your lid on as well if you want to, and all this is doing is keeping the heat in, but the tea towel absorbs any last bits of moisture, leaving us with really nice fluffy rice. So let's check the chicken. Wow, it smells amazing. Here we go. So take a look at that. There's our beautifully cooked chicken. What we'll do now, we'll just move the rice off the board for just a minute. And we'll get ourselves a piece of our chicken. Okay, so here is our lovely piece of chicken. You could serve it just like this if you wanted to, on top of the rice, or with anything else. You could serve it with new potatoes, vegetables, chips, whatever takes your fancy. Today obviously we're doing rice, but once you've learned this dish, you can serve it with anything you like. You could also stuff the chicken with different things. Up in Scotland they love to stuff the chicken with haggis. Some people stuff it with sausage meat, so you get a really meaty flavour. Mushrooms, anything really that will infuse into the chicken and create a lovely flavour. I like the cheese version because the cheese melts and turns into a sauce. So you get this garlic and herby sauce already with your chicken without having to make a sauce separate. Let's slice open the chicken and see what it looks like inside. There we go. We've got lovely garlic chicken. Chicken's cooked all the way through, not pink at all. We've got a lovely garlicky sauce inside with our spring onions, our black pepper. The butter's given a lovely glistening to the Serrano ham on the top. It's looking absolutely delicious. So let's bring our rice over. Okay, so take our tea towel that we had on top of the rice off. Now when we look at the rice, it's all lovely and fluffy, glistening, smells lovely, looks lovely. Just look at that rice. All the water has now completely gone from the pan, but you haven't had to drain the rice at all. We've used every bit of water that you put in. The rice is beautiful and soft. perfect rice. So let's serve some into a bowl. And then we can take our chicken, lay it across the top, and there we have it. Garlic and herb stuffed chicken with some spring onions, some black pepper, bit of butter, some Serrano ham, bacon, whatever you want to put on the top, just to wrap it into a little basket. All cooked, all looking beautiful. Let's give it a try. Fantastic. The rice is moist, it's not hard, it's not overcooked, it's not undercooked, it's not soggy, it's not sort of sticky and starchy. Perfect. The chicken, you get an instant hit of spring onion, pepper, garlic and herbs. Beautiful. Give it a go.